Y'all know what's going on. It's time for another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker. Check this out, y'all. This is one of those eye-opening episodes, right? I'm going to be talking about the life of a gangster, the untold story. You're not going to get this story anywhere else. I'm going to delve into the gritty reality of life inside gangs and present you with the raw and uncut truth about the journey that a young child at the age of 12 years old took on, and he ended up growing up and to become the number one gangster in the Department of Corrections, right? The prison system. I'm going to talk about his rise and fall. And I want you to keep in mind, right, as you listen to this story, remember, this is a warning. It's a cautionary tale about the harsh realities of gang life. It's just not to glamorize it, right? But I'm going to keep it 100, Richard. So sit back and let me take you on a journey that will enlighten, surprise, and with a little luck, make you realize that there's a better path than that of a gangster. Check me out, y'all. This story is about this young guy. I'm going to call him Steven, right? That's not his name. I'm letting you know that off the top. That is not his real name. But I'm going to do this just to protect this individual's identity, because this story is going to be about his rise, his ascension to the top in the ranks of Gangster Disciple, and it's going to be also about his fall. But I'm going to keep it real in every aspect. He knows who he is. I've talked to him about this. He wanted me to leave some things out. I told him I can't do that. I'm going to keep it raw and uncut. But he does understand that this is about trying to deter people from the life. And he wants to make sure that people understand that, you know, it might be looking good at the beginning, but hey, in the end, it gets real gritty and grimy. Like we always say, man, ain't no pity in Gangster City. You feel me? Now look here, check this out though, right? This young man at the age of 15 years old became a Gangster Disciple. But his story starts 3 years prior to that, at 12, right? So I'm going to start right there. When he was 12 years old, right? But let me hold up. I'm going to lay some foundation for you. This man's family, right? Middle class family. They were not struggling. He had his mother and father in the household. And I wanted to point that out because a lot of times people talk about the people that end up joining gangs, that they come from broken homes, they have these problems going on, they have daddy issues or self-esteem issues and all of these types of things. Now, keep in mind, I'll admit that that is the truth in my opinion in the majority of the situations, but there are those situations where that's not the case. But even when that's not the case, even when they do have a parent and both parents in the household and they have all the opportunities laid out in front of them, there still is something wrong. And I hope that you understand that and pick up on that when you listen to and while you're listening to this story, right? Because he came from a household where he had all the opportunities, middle class family. You understand what I'm saying? Solid middle class family. He didn't have to struggle for anything, right? But there was something about the life that he had that he really didn't want. And at the age of 12 years old, he walked into this convenience store. And he saw these three young guys in the store. And they were walking up and down the aisles, and they were just putting things in their pockets, right? So when they got up to the counter, they threw a couple of dollars on the counter. And they said, GD that, folks. Now, he heard them say that, but he had no idea what that meant. Okay, and basically what that means is like, that's what's up, folks. You feel what I'm saying? Or that's what's up, bro. You feel me? But he didn't, at the age of 12, he didn't know what that meant. But something about the interaction between those three young men in the store and the man, the cashier behind the counter, something about their interaction captivated him at the age of 12. At the age of 12, he saw something that pulled him. And when I was talking to him, he described it was almost like, he said, it was almost like somebody that gets high. If you've ever gotten high before, smoked weed, cocaine, whatever the case may be, if you've ever gotten high before, he said it was like that. It made him feel euphoric. Might not make any sense to you whatsoever. But the point about this is that a lot of people are drawn to this lifestyle because it makes them feel good. So anyway, Stephen, he sees these three young men up at the counter and they say, GD that folk, and then walk straight out the door. Now he goes to the counter. He wants to ask this cashier what was that they said. But he's looking at the cashier. The cashier is looking at him, and he knows that he's not supposed to be asking that question. So he puts the money down on the counter and pays for his soda and his chips. And he walks out. But from that moment on, he became so hypnotized by what he had seen. He became so involved in trying to figure out who these three individuals were. He had seen them at school, but he had no idea who they were and what they represented. You understand what I'm saying? He just knew it was something different about them. They were his age or a little older, he said, but the point is, it was something that about them that attracted him to them. So when he would go to school, he would seek them out. In the hallways, he'd look for them between changing classes and going on and all of these other things. He would look for them. When he saw them in the chow hall, he would notice that they would be sitting in another part of the chow hall. Excuse me, I call it the chow hall. Been in the penitentiary a long time, folks. But anyway, y'all know what I'm talking about. The cafeteria. The cafeteria again, you know. But again, I've been locked up so long, I'm calling it the chow hall, because that's what we call it in here. Excuse me for that. You know what I'm saying? I need to check myself, for real. But anyway, he sees them in the cafeteria. And he gravitates towards them every day. He said he moved a table over and a table over, but he knew in that area that only those individuals that were sitting over, they were all just like a group of guys. They were friends. They all kicked it and laughed and hung around each other during the breaks, at recess, in the dining room, all of those types of things, right? So he would inch closer to them every day. But he could never really just get the nerve up to go sit at that table with them. He knew there was something about everybody that sat at that table that told him, you're not welcome here. But he watched them. He started to notice their mannerisms and how they would shake each other's hands and hug each other. He had never seen anything like this. He's 12 years old, y'all. Never seen anything like this. This grown folk stuff that had infiltrated its way into a school. A school for kids, 12 years old, 12, 13, 14 years old. And he's seeing all of this, and it makes him feel like, that's what I want. That's what I want. So let me explain to you what happened to him. He goes through the school year. And in this particular school, they didn't have a lot of fights. And even when they did have fights, it was nothing major. But one day, these three kids, these three guys that he saw, plus the other people that they used to kick it with, they were in a standoff in the hallway against another group of guys. He's walking down the hall like everybody else is, and he sees this. So he gets past them, because that people are walking past them, but these guys are locked in on each other. There's some real stare-down stuff going on, and it's about to pop out. Well, guess what he does? Instead of doing like the other kids that are walking on by, minding his business and going on, and maybe getting a teacher or somebody, let them know what's going on, he walks past and stands on the side with the guys that he had been watching all of this time. Now they look at him and wonder, what is he doing over here? He's not one of us. He said he knew what the look was about, but they didn't dare say anything at that point, at that moment, because they were locked in on the guys that they were staring at. They were locked in on the opposition, y'all. But he stood with them. And by standing with them, he had made a choice. At 12 years old, this is what I want. So the principal and a couple of other teachers come down the hall when they break everything up, tell them to go their way. Everybody goes their way. He's standing there looking silly. So he says he decides to walk with them. And while he's walking with them, one of them said, what are you doing, man? Why are you hanging around us? Get away from us. So he walks away. And he says when he got home that night, he cried. Because he felt that he had been rejected. But they had no idea that he wanted to be a part of them at this point. Right? So the next day, he decides, I'm going to tell them. I want that. Whatever y'all doing, I want to be your friend. See, he didn't understand what this was. He just wanted that friendship from them. He said he didn't feel comfortable around the athletes. He didn't feel comfortable around the people in the chess club because his dad played chess. He taught him how to play chess. He wanted him to be in the chess club. He said he didn't feel that connection with anybody other than these people. And he wanted that. So he sought that out. So he made it up in his mind. The next day when he went to school, he would tell them. And that's what he did. He told them. He said, man, I want to be your friend, man. They all laughed at him. This ain't about friendship. This is about family, is what they told him. Now, not understanding the full ramifications of that, he said, well, I want to be a part of your family. 12-year-old boy. Now, he's talking to some other boys that are maybe 2 or 3 years older than him, what he said, 12, 13, 14 years old. But they're talking to him with grown man language because they had been schooled by those individuals that put them on. You got to keep in mind, y'all, kids can't put kids on, right? And when I say put on, I mean make gangsters. This has to happen by adults. You understand? So they've been trained. They've been schooled. They've been manipulated. They've been used. They've been bamboozled by grown people. And now here they were emulating that grown man language to this child. And it made him feel like, yeah, this is what I want. So he pulled up on it. He said, what do I have to do to be your friend? What do I have to do to be a part of your family? They said, we'll get back at you. But for now, go your way. So he went his way. But every day he would come back to them. Every day he would come back to them, asking them, what's going on? What's going on? And they never would give him the green light. He ends up getting into a fight with one of the other guys that they were standing off with in the hallway. It wasn't a major thing. It was just a little skirmish in the restrooms. But he stood his ground. He didn't run. When he went home, his father gave him a spanking, grounded him. Plus, he had gotten suspended. But it wasn't a big deal as far as the fight was concerned. It was just the teacher, the administrator said, oh, no, they're not going to put up with that. So they suspended him for 3 days. So he ended up going back to school that Monday. And when he got back to school, now they were looking at him different because he stood up to the opposition. He doesn't understand who he's standing up to. He don't know nothing about no gang and opposition party. And he didn't know anything about that, right? But he stood up to him. So now the young men that are gangsters, they look at him like, okay, it might be something there. It might be something there. But before they could really do what they needed to do, you remember the guy that I told you about that he stood off in the restroom with and got to fight with? That afternoon, when they were coming out of the school, there was a whole crowd of them. They were all wearing red. So when he walked out of the school, he was walking out with the folks. So they automatically assumed what? All of them, including him, was the opposition. And a big fight broke out. Somebody got shot. Somebody got shot. Luckily, he didn't die. But he got shot. Now the police arrest all of them. Now keep in mind, this young man comes from a middle-class family. None of this stuff happens in the neighborhood that he lives in. You understand? But now, 12 going on 13, he's looking at serious time in juvenile. And that's what he gets. He gets locked up in juvenile. He gets 4 years in juvenile. Never been in trouble. But somebody almost died. Plus, we seem to not understand that the penalties for young black men are a little harsher than others. So they slammed this young man that had never been in any trouble, but was involved now in gang activity. They hit him for 4 years in juvenile detention. Now he's in juvenile with his new friends, his new family. His parents are hysterical. They couldn't do anything to save him from going to lockup. They couldn't do anything. They talked to him. They asked him to tell what happened, this and that. He's playing gangster. And what happens? When they get in there, he goes hard, just like everybody else. 1 year before he gets ready to get out, they make him a gangster. They make him a gangster. He had proven himself. He had proven himself to all of these people that he could go just as hard as they could. He learned everything about him. He knew the mannerisms. He knew the language. He knew the lessons. Now he was full-fledged GD at 15, coming out of a juvenile facility, moving back in with his parents, but they don't know him anymore. He's somebody else now. They don't know him. But at the end of the day, he's made his choice, and he's going that way. So here's the thing. Now that he's a gangster and he's back out on the streets, he has obligations to the organization. He didn't understand that. Now he's back out. His little friends are back out too. They're all running around in the neighborhoods and stuff like that. See, he really a part-time gangster, because on the side of the town that he's from, ain't none of this going on. Right? So he has to meet them on their side of town so he can stomp with the big dogs. And he does that. He's not coming in at night. His parents are panicking. They don't know what's going on. They're trying to talk to him. He's wearing these bandanas. He's doing all of these crazy things. They even find a gun in his room. As a matter of fact, he said they found several guns in his room because these little brothers are using him to hold the guns over at his house. Come on now. But he understands what's going on. He's not blind to it now. This is the life of a gangster. He's a kid, y'all. He's a kid. He's a kid. So anyway, what does he do? He gets caught up like everybody else in the game. Him and his little friends try to rob a liquor store. They're not even old enough to drink. They try to rob a liquor store. It's a liquor store, convenience store type setup. But anyway, the point is they tried to steal some liquor along with other things, but they tried to steal some liquor. Why? Why? Because they think that's what it's about. They think this is how you live when you live a criminal lifestyle. You create havoc. You break the law. You do all of these things that are irresponsible. His dad and his mama are telling him, these people are not the type of people you want to hang around. But the more they told him that, the more he wanted to be with them. Remember that, parents. Remember that. They pushed him further and further in. Not because they wanted him to, because they didn't know that it would do that. They didn't think that it would have that effect. They figured that their son was smarter than that. Once he got out of juvenile, he would see that this is not what he should want to be. But that didn't happen like that. That's not what happened. He wanted it even more now. He wanted it even more. So when they robbed this liquor store, convenience store, they get some more time. But this time, they said the judge is bounding it over. He's going to bound them over and try them as adults. Nobody got shot. Nobody got hurt. But they bound it over. They tried them as adults. Because they were gangsters. Because they were gangsters. And all of them got 12 years in prison. Now he's just turning 16. You understand? He's just turning 16. Now he's in the adult system. He has to do 2 years, you know what I'm saying, behind the door. Basically what that means, they don't put kids on the compound or in the prisons, you know what I'm saying, to be able to run around in adult prison until they turn 18. But he's behind the door. He's in a pod, him and his little friends, locked down most of the day. When they let them out, they are in a secured area, you know, not around adults, but they're in an adult prison. So they're still being influenced by the environment. They think it's something special. They think it's something special. The gangsters on the compound know that they're back there, so they send them little trinkets, you know, to play with, you know, food, things like that, you know, make phone calls for them, stuff like that, helping them out. So they feel like they are doing something. They feel like they're a part of a family, and that's how he felt. Think about that. A family that was in a position to give him anything he wanted, any opportunity that he wanted in life. He rejected that for a family that from what he could see now, put him in a situation where he ended up losing his freedom twice. But he still couldn't see it. He still couldn't see the writing on the wall. Now, while he's in while he's in the adult prison as a juvenile, keep in mind, these young men, they've never even had sex. Never even had sex. Well, he hadn't. That's what he told me. Hadn't even had a girlfriend. He didn't know what that was like. He did not even know what that was like. So when he gets out onto the compound, when he turns 18, all of them turn 18. Well, 2 of them went out before he did, but when he finally gets out, and he's on the compound at 18, running around with his little friends, right? His first sexual encounter, guess what it was? It was with a man. It was with a man, a boy, that we call in the penitentiary. A boy. His first sexual encounter was with another man. Not because he was gay. Not because he was gay. You feel me? But because this boy that was talking to him looked like a female. You'll be surprised what people in here do to themselves to make themselves look like a woman. But this young boy, even though he's 18 now, he still was turned on by that. You feel me? He was still turned on. And to this day, I asked him, was he gay? And he told me no. But I believe that. Because a lot of people in here, they engage with men because that's what's available. I know some of y'all saying, oh, no, No, Joe, then they got to be gay. No, let me say something to you. I'm not trying to defend it, right? But let me tell you something. I'm going to put it to you like he put it to me. He had never had sex in his life. Never had sex in his life. And he said when this boy that was presented to him like a woman, a girl, he said that he couldn't tell the difference. What he knew was his body was responding to it, right? He had a physical reaction, meaning a hard-on, to what this individual was saying, right? So where was that on that? I said, hey, to each his own. He'll have to deal with that. But here's the thing. He kept that from his brothers, those that wasn't with him, because the way he told me this came about is the 2 of the brothers that he was in there with, they all were part of this little getting head crew, as they call it. You getting head is not, you know what I'm saying, gay. That's how they looked at it. As long as they were not doing all the way, they felt like it was straight. So, but they kept it quiet. The problem for him, as he put it to me, was that he wanted more. He liked it. So that's when I started to say, well, you have to admit, if you wanted to do more than that, that you might be gay. To this day, he won't admit that. But remember that, y'all, because it's going to play a key role in what goes on with him as he embarks on this journey of gang life. Remember that part about his proclivities, okay? Because it's going to be important. But check this out. I'm going to wrap this episode up, and then I'm going to come back with another one and tell you what his life was like in prison and how he started to ascend to the top of the rankings in GD. You feel me? So y'all, look here. Stay tuned. Don't go nowhere. I need y'all to stay tuned and listen to this, because this is finna get real, realer than real. You hear me? It's finna get realer than real. This has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and I say peace, y'all.